All right, hey everybody, welcome to the Coding Zoo. In today's lesson, we're going to cover different functions on the array object that are built in. Some of these functions are new or became standard in ES6. The functions we're going to cover are array.every, array.sum, and my all-time favorite array.filter. Very, very powerful and easy syntax. Love filter. We're going to cover array.find, array.findIndex. We're going to cover array.indexOf, array.lastIndexOf, and array.includes. If you haven't used array.filter, I especially recommend that you learn this one. You will use it often. These are very helpful methods. These particular methods on the array object are pretty neat, and you will probably use a lot. So I definitely recommend to watch today's lesson. If you're interested in that, hey, stick around. We're going to jump right in. Hang on a minute. I need more coffee. Gotta have the coffee. Love coffee. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Today's lesson is a little different. We're going to go pretty quick, so I went ahead and programmed the code for each example. We're going to go over each example and see how they work. If I go too quickly, hey, stop the video and catch up. Again, definitely program as I go over each example. Practice these functions. You want to get familiar with them, at least know what they are and that they're available. I have a main.js file here, and I've got an array called number array. So let's start with the first example. Okay, let's uncomment it. All right, so right here I have a if block, and it takes the array number array and it calls every. So what this is doing is every is a function that will check and see if every entry in your array meets a certain criteria. And that criteria is defined with a function that you pass in to every. So right here I have a anonymous function. It's an arrow function. It's an anonymous function. Each entry in this array will be passed into this anonymous function, and the variable will be called entry. And then we check and see if the entry is less than 100. So basically, I want to make sure everything in this array is less than 100. If it is less than 100, it will write out this text on the screen. If it's not, it will write this text on the screen. If we look at my array, I have 1 and all the way up to 99. So let's try it out. Click Save. Going to click Refresh, and there we go. So all are below 100. So this is the code section that it ran. This means that every was true. Every entry was less than 100. If I change it up a little bit, let's say I uncomment this line and I do push or add a 300 onto the array, it should go to this else block. All right, let's click refresh, and there we go. There was at least one entry above 100. So every is pretty powerful, but also pretty simple. You're just looking to see if everything in your array matches a certain criteria. Very powerful. Awesome feature. All right, let's comment that out. Move to the next example. So in this example, we are going to check and see if some of the entries are greater than 100. Instead of all of them, we want to see if the array has at least one. So I'm going to actually add that 300 back to the array. Let's move that comment to there. So this creates an array 1 to 99 there, and it pushes 300 on the end. And if I was to run this every, of course it would be false because 300 is now in the array. But I'm not looking for every. I want to see if some are greater than 100. So let's see. Click refresh. There we go. Some are above 100. So basically, sum is just like every. It takes in a function that specifies the criteria, but instead of making sure that all meet the criteria, it just needs to find out that some meet the criteria. It makes sense, pretty self-explanatory. So I'm going to change it to get rid of this 300. Click Save. And now it should tell me that it couldn't find any that are above 100. Let's see. None are above 100. There you go. Very simple. Let's move on to the next example. All right, so filter. This is a very quick example, but filter is very powerful. Imagine having an array of objects, and you can filter those objects by looking at their properties with a function that defines a criteria. That criteria could look at the properties, it might do some calculations, it could do several things to that object to make sure that object in the array meets a certain criteria. You could apply business logic to that object. Filter is very important. It's very useful. This, of course, is only a simple example. All right, so I have my number array. I'm going to filter it, and again, I have my anonymous arrow function. I'm going to find, not just check and see if there's any that are less than 50. I'm going to filter the array down to only the ones that have numbers less than 50. So this filter will actually create a different array, an array that contains all the items that are less than 50. If you go back and look at my array, I have quite a few that are less than 50. I have 3 of them. So the new array should have those 3 entries. Let's click Save, click Refresh, and I'm writing those entries out to the screen. There we go. 1, 2, and 33. So again, that's a pretty simple example, but imagine how powerful that can be if you apply it to an array of business objects. Let's move to the next one. Okay, so in this example, we are going to use the function find. Find, just like the other operations, takes in a function that specifies the criteria for what you're trying to find. In this case, I'm going to find the first entry. If there's more than one, so for example, there's more than one less than 50, it's going to find the first one. So I'm going to find the first entry. So I'm going to find the first entry that's less than 50. Let's run it. There we go, 1. So let's double check. Yeah, first entry less than 50 is 1. So pretty simple. It finds something that matches your criteria. It finds the first one that matches your criteria. Unlike filter, which finds all that match your criteria. All right, let's move to the next example. Now this function is just like find, except instead of finding the actual value, I'm going to find the index of the item. So let's try that out. So first entry that's less than 50. I'm going to change that a little because I think in this case the first entry less than 50 is 1 and its index. Well, its index will be 0. So let's try that out. That'll work. I forgot we were 0 based here. All right, click refresh. There we go, 0. So the first entry in the array that's less than 50 is 1, and this is a 0 based array in JavaScript. So the index is 0. Very simple. All right, so let's move on to indexOf. All right, indexOf is very much like findIndex. There is a little difference. First, let me show you that it's very much like it. I'm going to find the index of 60. Let's see what we can find. All right, refresh. So it says 4. Let's double check. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the index of 60 is number 4. So it found the index of 60. So what's the difference in that and findIndex? I mean, my criteria up here in this function could say, instead of entry less than 50, it could say entry equals 60, and could do the same thing. The difference with indexOf is you can actually pass in another parameter. So, and that other parameter basically gives an index of where you want to start looking in the array. And what it does is it returns the offset. So from that index in the array, where is 60? Let's run this real quick. There we go. -1. So what does that mean? So let's go back and look at it. So I'm starting at index 5, and I want to find out where 60 is. So index 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I started at this entry, this 99, and 60 is -1 in offset. So if this is offset of 5, 60 is at 4, so that's -1. So it's giving you offset of -1 to tell you in relation to the index you passed in where that entry is at. So that's the difference in indexOf and findIndex. That's another way you can use it. Cool. Not very hard, very simple. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, so this is very much like indexOf, but instead of the first index, we are going to find the last index. So we don't want to find the first one, we want to find the last one. So I'm looking for 99, and there are 2 entries in 99. Let's see, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So index 5 and 6, I want to find the last one. So it should print out 6. There you go. Found the last index of that item in the array. Very simple. Next one, let's go to the next function. And final function that we're going to cover in this lesson, let's look at includes. So includes is very powerful also. It allows you to search through the array and find out if something is included in the array. So in this array, I'm going to look for 200. Of course, it's not there, so it should go right there to number not found. Click save, click refresh, number not found. So 200 does not exist in the array. If I were to say put 200 in the array, I cannot type today. It should say something different now. There we go. Includes 200, yes. And so there you go. Includes 200 in the array. Yes, it does. 200 is now in the array because we pushed it into the array. All right, so that's it for today's lesson. I hope you followed along and actually coded with me. If not, I'd recommend you to do so and try these out. Practice implementing these features so you get them stuck in your mind. If you didn't have time to code along with me, you can actually find the lesson out on the website. Usually we will have it out there for download, the files for the lesson within 2 or 3 days of the lesson posting. So definitely check out thecodingzoo.com. You should find it in the lessons section within the next 3 or 4 days, 2 or 3 days. We hope you enjoyed today's lesson. There are a lot of good features here in the array object, very powerful and used often. So hey, if you liked today's video, help us out. Go ahead and click the like button. That does help us get the word out. And if you are looking forward to learning other lessons from us, please click subscribe and hit that bell icon down there, somewhere over there. I think it's over here. That will keep you informed of when we put out the next lesson. We hope to see you again, and we hope you have a great week.